The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, episode 136.
Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Make it so. Surrender is not an option.
Attention crew of the Enterprise, this is James Kirk.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We would have helped you get home if you had asked. That's who Starfleet is.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the latest and the last episode of the latest season of Star Trek Discovery, called That Hope Is You, Part 2. Joining me today on the panel, and it rhymes, joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Stika. Hi, Father Cory.
Hey, so can we do 2 minutes of previously on like they did at the beginning of this episode?
Yes, sure. And Jimmy Aiken. Hi, Jimmy.
0. I'm so glad we have 0 episodes left in this series to review.
So, folks, remember to like The Secrets of Star Trek on our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Retweet us on Twitter, where we're at SQPN, and be sure to leave us comments. We'd love to hear from you and what you think, and especially your final thoughts on this third season of Discovery and what you hope for in the future, for future seasons of Discovery, perhaps, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about this. Yeah, there was a very long previously on the last episode that we got,
which, they're trying to set us up for the season finale. So since it's a planned season, they're trying to review everything in the season.
Right.
It still meant you had to hit forward about 3 or 4 times on your fast forward button to get past it.
Yes, that's true. And the title, it is a reference back to that first episode, which is that.
And I didn't like the title the first time around, so I was not. It's another one of these, because it's a line spoken to Michael early on in the season. That hope, meaning the hope for the Federation, is you, meaning Michael Burnham. And it's too Mary Sue-ish for me.
Yes.
So I wasn't really a fan of That Hope Is You Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. This time it's personal.
Yes. And the original title that was revealed and changed, because they've been doing this the last 3 episodes, was called Outside, which I guess is a reference to Su'Kal leaving the hollow deck experience that he was in. So we'll get to that.
But everything has to be about Michael Burnham, so it can't be about a momentous thing like saving us from another burn ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No burn again. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, it's all. Yeah, it has to be about Michael. So
I like the joke that next season is going to be about ham. Since this week was about burn, next week will be about ham.
Yes. Hey, I'll take an episode or a season about ham. That'd be yummy. So we start back in the Nebula aboard the holodeck on the derelict ship called the Kiev. Things are getting worse because of Su'Kal's outburst, where we learned that he was the cause of the burn. They have to be careful not to get him upset again, or he'll turn into the Hulk or cause another burn. You wouldn't like me when I'm upset. Adira shows up looking like a Zahian. You remember the Zahians that we've seen a couple times?
I was trying to figure out what she was. I wasn't sure.
They did change the makeup up a bit, but it was Poe from the Short Trek Runaway is what it's based off of.
And then later on last season, too, she shows up again in last season, the second season. And she's accompanied by Gray, who looks like a Vulcan, and Gray can be seen by Culber and Saru. So for some reason, the Holo recognizes this incorporeal person as being real.
So, like, how?
Right.
But obviously, okay, they're gonna get him. If a holographic program can physicalize Gray, obviously they're gonna get him a mobile holographic emitter in the future, just like the Doctor.
Right. By the 32nd century. In fact, the Doctor's holo emitter came from earlier.
29th century.
So obviously they have this tech, so we'll have to see it. It'll be walking around.
By the way, before we get too far into the plot, I wanted to make a couple of comments about the episode as a whole. One of them is that there's very visually dynamic direction in this. In fact, if you're subject to motion sickness, you may not want to watch this on a giant screen, because we do lots of 360 barrel rolls during the course of this episode. But despite that, I was very overall, I mean, it had flaws, but overall it was, I was much more favorably impressed by it than I thought. It was not as bad as I was fearing it was going to be. What I liked about it is the same thing I liked about the previous episode. And if I thought about it, I mean, I'd probably still give a slight edge to the previous episode, because this one does have a little bit of the problem tropes that we've talked about this season. But this is straight ahead action for the most part, and it's not reflective for the most part. It's just straight ahead storytelling, and it really is effective action. I'm not a huge fan of action sequences, because my general principle is that as long as an action sequence is in progress, nothing meaningful is going to happen to advance the plot until the end of the action sequence. But this episode is basically large swaths of this episode are action sequences, but I thought they played very well. In fact, I thought that this may be the most effective action I have seen in Star Trek. You know, because a lot of the time it's just shooting phasers at each other and things like that, and this is much more physical than that. And there's a sense of we're running to places that have meaning to do stuff. And then, you know, getting into conflict with the people who were there. And I thought this was very effective as an action episode, and I'm not normally impressed by action.
Admittedly, I could have done without the turbo lift flying through empty space within the ship.
I do want to talk about that, the problem of that, which was introduced in the J.J. Abrams films, of how they imagine the design of these ships as having these gigantic, cavernous, unused, empty spaces, which makes zero sense on a spaceship.
Now, I mean, the way they designed it in this one, I'm not a fan of, although I've not read the technical manuals. I've never owned one of the technical manuals, but supposedly, according to the Enterprise D technical manual, it was originally came out of space dock with large cavernous areas because it was designed to be modular. You could pull a module out of the ship, put a new module in. Now, is that the way they designed Discovery? No, they didn't. Instead, it's just got this big open area in the middle of the ship that all these turbolifts can fly around.
I did think it was interesting, even though, again, this makes no sense, because the turbolifts, if you have a big cavernous space, are just going to be little airplanes. Basically, you can fly them wherever you need,
flying through tubes.
But but they have these sort of pseudo tubes with no walls, but they have these guides that the tube flies through, these like square guides, and which they don't need. So that makes no sense. But I did like the fact that they were self-replicating. So there's a new guide appearing where you're about to fly.
Well, these guides looked a lot like the trains on Star Wars, on the prequels and Clone Wars.
Yeah, sure.
Same kind of idea, where there's these guides that it goes through that are just kind of floating in space.
Yeah, but if you look at the outside of Discovery, there's no room for these giant cavernous spaces unless there's nothing in the ship.
Well, there's less than 100 people on the ship, so perhaps they like got rid of a whole bunch of rooms because they don't need them anymore.
I guess so. Anyway, yeah, that's neither here nor there. I agree. I think the action was effective. It was. You could understand what was going on. Sometimes these action sequences, it's so confusing. You're not sure who's doing what and why and how. I thought it was well directed. Olatunde Osunsami was the director again, who's also the director of Calypso, I think, which was pretty good. I think they were. But anyway, they've directed before.
Yeah, it was also nice seeing the bridge crew in action, getting to do something together. And something occurred to me that I'm a little surprised they haven't said on the show, because it seems kind of obvious to me. it has to do with the reason that they would all go to the future. And they've said it was to keep Michael company so she won't get alonesies. But that, but these people are explorers.
Yeah.
And if given the chance to, I mean, it's like, okay, we have to send this ship, 900 years into the future. Are you coming with or not? A lot of people who are out there as explorers would say, yeah, I'm up for that.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, they're explorers, they're scientists, they're people who want to learn new, strange, incredible things. And what better place to do that than 900 years in the future?
Well, and given a choice, like if it's someone just shows up, hey, you want to go 900 years in the future without being able to come back? Most people would say, well, I think I'd miss my family. But you need to go 900 years in the future to save all of living existence, but you get to stay there and explore. Oh, okay, that's worth the price that I have to pay.
Absolutely.
Also, I assume these people don't really have families. They don't have families, immediate family off the ship. So I could see why, for example, if the three of us were given this offer, Dom would probably say, no, I've got a wife and children here.
Right.
Father and I, however, both being single, father being a priest and I being a widower with no children, might say, okay, I'm up for the time jump.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's and so presumably the crew who did have off-ship immediate, family connections or that sort of thing
didn't stay to keep Michael from feeling lonesies.
Exactly.
Right. So meanwhile, back at Starfleet headquarters, Discovery is flying around inside the bubble, shooting up the place, while Osiris' ship is outside shooting from outside. What they're trying to do is trying to get the Discovery out from inside the bubble, the distortion field. Osiris, now that she's been rejected, her plan to merge with the Federation, she wants to destroy the Federation. And Vance, interestingly, is evacuating the civilians. I'm not sure why this is a good idea. So you presume it'd be safer inside the bubble than outside the bubble with the big Emerald Chain ship there.
Well, I wonder if he figures that her plan is to come in and take over destroy. Because I think he rightly understands that because she's been scorned. And let's be clear, it's not that her plan was scorned. It was she didn't like the fact that she would have to stand trial. And it would have to be independent of her. She wouldn't be able to control the trial. And that's what set her off. And so I wonder if he's thinking, he also mentions, though, he knows where her base is, her nearest base is. But I wonder if he's also thinking, but she could try to basically destroy Starfleet headquarters before on the way out type of deal. And let's get the civilians out of there before it's a problem.
Well, and the problematic part is he decides to send Stamets with them, which why would you where is the safest possible place right now? The safest place for Stamets to not be taken by her and used is right where he's right next to Vance.
So
right?
The problem is you're trying to apply logic to this situation, Dom.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, Vance has determined that this is not a safe place. And so he's doing what he can to get rid of everybody who is non-essential. And that makes sense. And I like the fact that he just tells Stamets, you're out of here. Sorry, but you're going. And because you are the only person who can do the jump drive, you are too valuable an asset to have in this dangerous location. Now, that all makes sense. The problem is this as dangerous a location as he thinks? Because we've got one rogue ship inside the bubble, and that's Discovery. But we've got a fleet of other ships inside this bubble who have all been told to kill Discovery. How hard can killing one ship be?
1,000-year-old ship that's been retrofitted.
I was going to say that, but it's been upgraded.
Yeah.
But still, it takes way too much screen time for what should be something very, very simple.
Yes.
I mean, if you've got a fleet of American warships, you got a carrier group. let's say, and one of the ships in that group goes rogue and the others all fire on it simultaneously, that ship's going to go down fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have to. They end up breaking out of the warp bubble, the distortion field, and they're about to take off. And that's when the Vulcan fleet shows up, presumably from Michael's message to her mom.
Yes, to her mom.
Which was, interestingly, we never get any of that.
Like I said, well, and they needed to remind us that Nivar is Vulcan.
Right.
But
in which case, don't change the name.
yeah. But like I predicted last episode, that message to mom, I may not see you again. Okay, guess what's going to show up to the rescue?
Right. I was looking for the warrior nuns, but,
I was hoping for individual warrior nuns, but I'll take ships.
And so Osira's next plan in this to escape is to launch pesticide into space. Like,
I didn't follow that. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I could think of kind of headcanon is it's some kind of chemical or something that they could get into because she was talking about it, targeting it towards their shuttle bays and things like that. So somehow get it into the ship. Yeah. Somehow
they really ought to put doors on those shuttle bays because those seem like a vulnerability that keeps getting exploited.
I mean, if only they had silly things called shields.
right.
On these, emergency force shields on these shuttle bays. I mean, silly ideas like that,
Anyway, what happens is Burnham tells Vance, "Trust me, let us go, and we'll bring the ship back," or however it is, the what she wants him to trust. But he does trust her, despite her track record. And meanwhile, Book is being tortured to give up his information about how to get to the dilithium planet in the middle of the nebula. And Aurelio, the scientist in the wheelchair, is resisting the orders from Osira to help with the torture.
Right, because he's having his eyes open to she's really a bad guy, and she chokes him into unconsciousness.
Yes.
And tells him, "You won't wake up next time if you disobey me again."
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if that's going to come back to hurt her later. Anyway,
gee, no way.
Yeah. So Zara is there, and he.
Oh! I did like the fact that we learned that Orion hearts have 6 valves.
Mm-hmm.
And
so the blood flows.
She says that gives them bidirectional blood flow. It's like, really? Why?
Yes.
Obviously metaphysical. Yeah.
I'm not sure the writer was thinking this one out, but yeah. Zara tells Burnham and Booker that this is a no-win situation, and Burnham says, "I don't believe in the no-win situation, a la Captain Kirk."
All right, so she didn't face the Kobayashi Maru, or did she cheat too?
Would she predate Kirk?
She should. Well, slightly, but I think Kobayashi Maru was a standard test.
Yeah.
When for a long time, but it was given to captaincy candidates, and maybe she only rose to first officer, so maybe she didn't have to.
Well, and then there's the whole weird thing, like maybe she didn't actually go to the Starfleet Academy because she was like dropped off on board by Sarek. Yeah, it was that weird thing. Anyway, meanwhile, back in
I do think the torture scene on Book is effective, though.
Yes. They're taking advantage of his empathic nature and overloading his senses with this the pain thingy that they were doing to him. And meanwhile, back in the nebula, Saru is trying to convince Su'Kal that Saru is a Kelpian despite appearances, because the holodeck is masking his true appearance.
And he's doing a reasonable job at talking to Su'Kal.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of chatting back and forth about this. There isn't a whole lot of movement in the plot in that part of it. I mean, there's Su'Kal is just struggling to deal with the unexpected and the loss of these hollow characters that he's grown used to and that sort of stuff. But there's not a whole lot of movement forward.
Well, I mean, there's not a lot of action, but Su'Kal is getting on board piece by piece with what with what Saru is telling him. He's not irrationally hiding his head in the sand over and over again. I mean, if this were badly written, everything Saru tells him, it would be like, no, that's impossible. But this, no, that's impossible. And we don't see that. He actually is coming around.
That's true. There is this
He's starting to understand.
Yeah. With Saru making him a traditional Kelpian meal is part of that, helping him. So they're showing, not telling in that sense, which is good. So that's one of the ways is we kind of complained about that before, but he's showing him, look, you can start to trust me. I know things about your culture. I can do things for you that the Hollows didn't. And so he's trying to create this bond and relationship with him. Burnham ends up using the medical quarantine force field to escape with Booker from sickbay, which was kind of a neat little
That was nice.
thing.
She also sends a message to Tilly that's kind of coded, but Tilly's able to figure it out based on personal knowledge that what she wants them to do is go to one of the nacelles, which are now detachable, and temporarily detach it, causing them to drop out of warp, allowing the Vulcan fleet to catch up with them. And then she does the smart thing and takes off the regulator comm badge and steps on it, so she can't be tracked through it anymore.
Right.
She learned her lesson.
Yeah. Well, it is one of these tropes of a lot of these shows is I'm sending a complex plan hidden in a seemingly obscure message, and you're going to be able to figure that out just based on personal knowledge. I'm like, that was a pretty obscure set of details that Tilly was able to pull out of that.
Yeah.
Well, and I love it where she figures out to make a thermochemical bomb.
Yes.
A heat pack is thermochemical. It's a chemical reaction that produces heat.
That's called a bomb.
So they're making a bomb out of those little pocket heat packs that you can buy at the store.
But isn't it's like TNT basically. It's a chemical that gets hot, and explodes.
They're making an explosion. Is what it's saying.
Yeah. And they the bridge crew that's now working together, they realize this is basically a suicide mission. And at this point,
because the oxygen is being slowly vented, because Osira is slowly venting it to kill them slowly for reasons, which are, she's apparently doing a "they will die if you don't give in to me" thing, but she doesn't want to kill them immediately to lose all her leverage.
Yeah.
Well, and she even says you can't save them, so she's even saying even if you give up now. Doesn't matter. I'm still going to let them die just because I'm spiteful and mean.
Green.
Yeah. Or you just pull everybody that matters to you back to the bridge and vent every other deck to space. And then but that would be logical. So back on the nebula, they're in the holodeck and they send Gray, because he's disposable, to go investigate what's going on outside to investigate the Kelpie ship outside the holodeck.
So the problem is that there's lots of radiation in the zone they need to investigate on the ship and to see what's outside. And Gray, not being alive, but just being a holographic representation of Gray, can go into that area without killing a living person. And he goes outside and sees lots of destruction, and I don't see how that advances the plot, but he does.
Right. Culber's theory is that the dilithium of the planet affected Su'Kal during chromosomal replication somehow, and so he can react to dilithium and through it to subspace, because there's a subspace component to dilithium. And so Su'Kal's scream traveled at the resonant frequency of dilithium subspace components and caused the burn. I still think this. He says he's a polyploid, and that is he's connected to dilithium into subspace, and I'm going, that's still dumb. It's still dumb.
Yeah,
but I mean, it makes more sense if you say, okay, you're a Time Lord because you were conceived in the vortex. I mean, even that makes more sense, given
right.
given the way the Doctor Who universe works compared to the way the Star Trek universe does. But as soon as they said that, I said in my notes, "Mom death equals burn."
Right. Yeah,
it's going to be the thing that sent him over was his mom died, and that's what caused the burn.
Right. And in fact, it's going to be even slightly more. But it's how emblematic is it of this season that it's emotion that causes the great destruction. It's like an emotion.
Well, and it's such a lost opportunity. They could, we talked about how many different possibilities of what the burn was, and no, they had to go with emotion. They could have done like, one of the things I thought is, okay, we knew this ship was crashed on this dilithium planet, and maybe something they're trying to do at this ship to free themselves from the planet caused the burn. No.
I was hoping it was going to be something really interesting like Section 31 or Tal Shiar plot.
Yeah, right.
Or time travel. We thought, there was something about the time travel of Discovery caused it.
Nope. No, angry, grieving little boy. Destroyed galactic civilization. That's the plot they've given us. Angry, grieving little boy destroys galactic civilization because reasons.
So, Su'Kal, in order to get out of this, Su'Kal has to face whatever is in the locked room that we saw before. That's his bête noire. That is the boss this level. So we can use different metaphors. Meanwhile, back in Discovery, it's Oyo who has to finish the mission to blow the nacelle off and leave the others behind to suffocate because she grew up pearl diving, essentially. So she can hold her breath longer than everybody else, which is
so she can hold her breath for 10 minutes, but she spends those 10 minutes talking, which isn't holding your breath.
Yeah. Speaking of talking, we now go into the elevator sequence, which Michael begins the combat by standing on top of an elevator that has regulators coming into it. And she says, "Up here, you SOB," to get the guy to look at her before she shoots him in the face. It's like,
why don't you
don't shoot, don't talk. You don't alert the people you're ambushing.
This is one of the things of like TV writer stupidities that I see all the time, like in cop shows when they're coming to interrogate a suspect who's like 50 feet away. Hey, we're cops. Oh, I start running away. No, stand next to him and go, oh, by the way, I'm a cop here to interrogate you. And now I'm so close that I can grab you and you can't run. Like, don't announce your presence from like give up any advantage you have. And that's what she does here. Like, it drives me crazy. Stop doing this.
Well, it's, you got these regulators who they're supposedly very highly trained, well trained, and they're looking for Burnham. They know they're looking for Burnham. They hear a voice of someone who might be her. Their first reaction is not going to be to look up. Their first reaction is going to try to find some cover and then look up.
Right. I love when they walk into this little elevator and look around as if like she's hiding in this closet of a space. Like she's obviously not there. Anyway, so there's a big fight that ensues.
Yeah. Another note I have is that even though last episode we ended with the sphere data inside the dots, like reporting for duty to help you retake the ship, Captain, they've been really useless throughout this entire battle. I mean, they have just been useless.
Cannon fodder. Yeah. That's what they are.
and in fact, what's his name? The bridge officer,
Reese
shoots. Is it Reese? It's the Asian looking guy. Yeah,
that's Reese.
So Reese like shoots a couple of dots, and I'm going, wait, are those friendly dots or are there dots on the other side too?
Does he shoot them? Or it was a little confusing.
I think there's one where it looked like he accidentally shot one. Yeah, at least.
Good shot, Reese. So there is we end this fight sequence on the turbolifts with Burnham in the data core, which was kind of cool. I like the design of the room, and
it's a heck of a server room.
Yeah, it's a 32nd century data core, so it's got that weird like nano moving wall sort of thing, and the action in there between Osira and Burnham fighting was pretty good. It was I could follow it. And it ends with Osira pushing Burnham into the data core and then walking away. Like, why did you why did you think that would kill her? Like, I don't get that.
Apparently, she thought she was going to drown in data blocks or something because when Michael gets out of it, she's spitting him out.
I guess,
right? But it's why would this be designed to have this happen?
Right. You would think it would be don't absorb people. That would be a fundamental.
We put cabinets around our servers for a reason. and if you could shove someone into something like this, why doesn't it have a safety feature to stop that from just for the sake of the person?
It's like the hammer pistons on Galaxy Quest.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
They're just there for this for plot purposes.
The 32nd century equivalent of shoving someone into a server and them getting electrocuted. So, meanwhile,
by the way, Zara, the ice planet guy, he's been killed, but I have in my notes that he deserved to die because he quipped rather than pushed Book out of the elevator.
Right. Don't monologue.
And insulted the cat.
Yes, and insulted the cat. Yes. She's a queen. So Sphere Dot saves OO, and all the rest of them survive.
Yeah. So OO has gotten up to one of the nacelles and planted the bomb, but now she's, of course, run out of her ability to hold her breath, so the Dot pulls her back. But this is like the third time, I think, that we've seen the inside of a nacelle on any Star Trek series. The first time was in the 7th season episode of Next Generation, Eye of the Beholder. And I believe we also saw one in the Enterprise episode Catwalk. But we've only very rarely get to see the inside of the warp nacelle, so that was kind of cool.
And this really isn't the nacelle; it's more like the pillar that attaches the nacelle.
But that area is really interesting. Yeah, I like to see those. I'm a technical design geek. So.
Oh, by the way, before Michael killed Osira, Osira ordered her ship, the Viridian, which is much bigger than Discovery, to gulp Discovery. So it opens up its maw, and now Discovery is involuntarily inside some kind of bay inside the Viridian.
Right. So right after it falls out of warp, I have to say I meant to say this before when we were talking about OO. I really like this character. I want to see more. I liked her as a mirror OO. She was interesting, and I like her in the regular OO. So I want to see more of her.
I like her and Detmer. They're the two bridge officers that stand out most for me, that have the most personality, and I like their friendship.
Yes.
There's a nice friendship there.
I want to see that develop.
Well, it's of course, then they have a bridge officer we haven't seen, this Lieutenant Ina, who she actually has been on the bridge just in costume. She's one of the other species. She'll show up on the bridge once in a while. The actor has, but it's just like this random bridge officer that's been there the last couple episodes.
I thought she was dead. To be honest, I thought she was going to die in this because it's like, here's the one we don't recognize. She's toast, but she did. Everyone survives. We have Moffat syndrome. They beam off all the regulators at this point, right?
Yeah, they beam off the regulators, and then Michael reboots the server.
So she says, beam off all the regulators.
Well, no. So there's this preliminary step before they see all of the computer has been infected by malware from Osiris people. So the reason she's been going to the server room is to do a nuke and pave. Yes. on the computer.
Yes.
And so she wipes out all the existing data and reboots to factory installation settings, which is apparently their pre-upgrade operating system. I don't know why they didn't put the current operating system in a partition
on a thumb drive or something.
They didn't update the restore partition.
Yes,
but in any event, they get their pre-Osira OS back up, and that then lets her rapidly execute a series of commands, including get rid of all the regulators, beam them off the ship.
But that didn't include Aurelio, who was technically an instigator or whatever,
invigilator. Yeah, although he may not have had, there may be some piece of regulator tech that they're using to identify each other in their systems, and he may not have been wearing that because of his role. It might
have been just the comm, the regulator comm badges. He may not have had one.
Maybe there were other regulators left, but that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, so Aurelio is the one who says, because he's been studying the spore drive, like they have to get out of the inside of this, the Viridian, the Emerald Chain ship, which is shooting them. And so he says Book's empathic abilities will let him connect empathically
to the mycelial network, the way the way the tardigrade DNA lets Stamets do it.
And so he'll be able to. So now we have a second person that can operate the jump drive. So they're going to drop the warp core.
So this is where this starts making no sense. So they're all on the bridge, and Michael says we've got a plan, and Tilly says do it without hearing what the plan is first, and Tilly's the one in command, but she basically steps back and surrenders the captain's chair to Michael, which makes no sense. I mean, I understand, Tilly, you may have such confidence in Michael that you want her plan to go into effect unheard in emergency circumstances, but you are in command, and you don't just surrender that command to someone else. You say, okay, I approve your plan, go do it. But because they're trying to move Michael into the captain's chair, which they've been doing for a few episodes, they need Tilly to act inappropriately for an officer left in command. It's like Star Trek Discovery, you've made your stupid writing choices, now stick with them.
Right.
She with zero plausibility, she was made first officer, and she was left in command, and Saru is going to expect to find her still in command when he gets back.
Right.
So you've made this choice, now carry it through. And so what it turns out Michael's plan is we're going to dump the warp core and blow it up to kill this ship. But we might survive if we can get Book to interface with the system and jump us out of here. And it's like, okay, look, if he can interface with the system and jump you out of here, just do that. Okay.
Right.
You don't need to dump your warp core. Or if you want to play with the warp core, just start building it towards critical and get on the phone and tell whoever is in charge of the Viridian that we're going to let this detonate if you don't spit us out. And frankly, whoever is on the bridge of the Viridian, even if they don't get a phone call from Tilly or Michael, should have someone say, Captain, their warp core is building towards critical. It looks like they're going to self-destruct. We should spit them out now.
Well, and
and so you've got like 3 plausible solutions here. You don't need to do this kludged together thing.
And let's not forget that there's that Starfleet Vulcan fleet surrounding them that was following them through warp.
Yeah.
That it's on the outside.
Well, and they did at least cover that one by saying, send a message telling them to get to safe distance.
Well,
and of course, the whole thing is they wanted the big explosion.
Well,
they wanted to see the ship buckle and go kaboom.
You need the Death Star moment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they did, by the way, talking about sound in space, they did muffle the explosion.
Yeah, they did
on that one. But I agree. It was the whole thing was ridiculous. But Jimmy, Michael, that hope is you. I mean, it's going back to the title. It really is. And it was just, we're going to get her in charge.
Yeah. Well,
that was what I wrote down too. It's like, okay, if the warp drive will work or the spore drive will work with Book, then get Book down there, get him spore driving out of there. And maybe they could leave some, quantum torpedoes behind or something to explode as soon as, program that as soon as Discovery spore drives out of there, then go boom.
Yeah. It's just ridiculously juicing the drama. But I do have in my notes, memo to villains. If a ship in your base starts building to a warp core overload, spit it out.
That's right. Back on the Nebula, Saru is telling Su'Kal
and then when they do jump, we've got this ridiculous juicing the drama. Book, when are we going to jump? When are we going to jump, Book? And then they don't show us them jumping, and we just learn later
destroyed.
They did.
Yeah. Then that's the end of Star Trek Discovery.
Well, and that's the first of 2 last second saves. They couldn't just have 1 last second save in this episode. No, they have to have 2.
Right.
So as the ship on the planet is disintegrating.
Let's not. I got a couple of notes I want to say before we get to that part, okay? Because there is a few things to say. So Saru is telling Su'Kal to take a leap of faith. Culber tells him it's okay to be afraid. More emotional stuff. what they do is they go onto the bridge of the ship. He ends the holo program that he's been living in, and then sees a holo recording of his mother dying, and he finds out.
Well, he has to pull that up.
Right.
He says, "Show me the last thing."
He puts his hand. It was interesting. He puts his hand on a control that's initially small, like a child's hand, and then the computer expands it to fit his adult hand. So to tell us he's done this before.
Yep.
And
this is his big fear that he must face to leave. Even though he doesn't, because he could have just shut off the holo program and left. There's nothing holding him here at this point.
Right. So what he finds out is that he's responsible for killing his family. That he somehow, as a child, turned off the safeties or the shields or something that was preventing his people from his family from dying of radiation.
That's not how I read that. See, the way I read it was, his mother knew that she was dying, that his family had died.
Yeah,
and to protect him, she created the holo. So this holo was created after they had crashed, but before the family had died.
They crashed. They got radiation poisoning, except for him, because he's a polyploid that got conceived in the time vortex in the nebula or something, and they stayed there for like 5 years, and then his family progressively died. Then his mom is dying now, and she's created this thing for him, and he sees her die, and she's disfigured by the radiation, and he freaks out, and that causes the burn without him knowing it.
Oh.
He was told not to turn it off until a Federation comes. Because remember, when they got that distress message, it was 2 years after it had crashed.
Right.
She was pregnant at that point.
Right.
With the distress message 2 years after they had crashed. So she had created the holo to protect him until the Federation, because she knew she wasn't going to survive until the Federation got there, till the rescue ship got there.
Right. No,
and he was instructed not to turn it off until the Federation comes, but he does just in time to see her die.
He turns off the holo.
The holo.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that, okay. I thought it was he turned off the safeties that caused them to die, but it was he just turned it off and saw her die when he wouldn't have seen her die. And that's what he cried out in agony and caused the burn.
And the fact that we came to different conclusions about this shows how good the writing is at this point in the episode.
Yes, I know. So he didn't just, so my note was he didn't just kill his mother and everyone left, but he evidently didn't kill them. But he did kill billions of people throughout the galaxy, directly and indirectly, by cutting the people off from other planets through interstellar travel and all that stuff. Presumably resulted in death and destruction on a huge scale. Which
galactic civilization fell. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the point in the episode where we get the line that frightened me from the previous teaser trailer, which was Saru saying, "Whatever happens, we are together."
Yeah.
And okay, he wasn't saying that to the crew. He was saying that to a 130-year-old man-child. So that's a little bit better.
Yes. This is, and he finally sees, Sukal sees Saru in his true Kelpian form and is in wonder at having met a Kelpian finally.
Am I the only one that was almost shocked to see Saru back in costume?
It was a little startling, yeah.
Yes. We are told that connection and the need to connect is at the core of our sentient beings.
Thanks for the pop psychology. Now, you see, now that we're past the double crisis, now the quality of the episode drops. It was much more entertaining up to this point, but we are told and not shown in rapid succession that the Emerald Chain has collapsed because Osira, the mob boss, was so critical to it. And we all know that that's what happens to a mafia or a British East India Company when its current leader leaves office, is it just collapses, of course.
Well, you could say there was fighting among the remaining capo de capos and who will take over.
We even know that the Emerald Chain has an actual Senate and things like that. It's like the Republic before the Emperor took over type of, or the Separatists before.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there might have been internal fighting over who gets to be the lead, but
but that doesn't mean it automatically collapses just because Osira.
We have to get rid of their threat. basically.
Yeah. So we're told that Trill has rejoined the Federation, and Saru
the Vulcans are considering
Vulcan, and the Nivar, since it's Vulcan and Romulan now. Yeah. They're considering joining. Saru is taking a leave of absence to go to Kaminar to help Su'Kal reintegrate.
Mm-hmm.
And we also get a cameo by Lieutenant Sahil, the Indian East Asian guy from episode 1, and he's officially part of Starfleet now. Mm-hmm. And then we come to another chapter in the improbable career of Michael Burnham.
Where we get to have Burnham, you're the best. Again, we have Vance giving his adulation of Burnham and then promoting her to captain. And she gets to say, "Oh, shucks."
We do find out why he was so concerned about getting civilians, that he doesn't, even his own family had been long ago sent away.
Right.
He was that concerned about
safe.
the safety of the Starfleet headquarters. So.
Right.
Yeah. And now Discovery is going to be ferrying dilithium that they're extracting from the planet in the nebula to rebuild civilization. So we have the Discovery Dilithium Delivery Service.
No. They are now the DoorDash of dilithium.
Okay.
I like, there you go.
I should invert that. Dilithium DoorDash.
Yes. But you got to have the alliteration in there. So
Discovery's Dilithium DoorDash.
Yes.
And they all get new uniforms. And it's like, wait, if you were going to give them new uniforms, shouldn't you have done that in the upgrade when they first joined 31st Century Starfleet?
Mm-hmm.
This is the sign that they are. This is now the sign that they are part of Starfleet. Yeah, there's something I found online about that, though. I think they changed plans halfway through recording these final scenes. Tilly was originally given a red uniform, a red striped uniform, as command, and I think they changed their mind that she should still be science blue.
Yeah. So they changed.
So there's the one scene where there's a zoom in on her. She's standing next to Reese, and there's zoom in on her. And they actually had to go in and Photoshop, airbrush in the blue. Now, there's a later scene where she's wearing a blue uniform, a uniform with the blue. So they must have made her a new uniform at that point.
It looks like they changed plans on the future of Tilly, which is she's not going to be acting or permanent first officer,
right.
Which
because there's the scene where they're lined up in front of the turbolift door, waiting for Burnham to show up, and you can see her standing next to the door, and she's got the red stripe. This is I don't think it's in the actual video, but it's on the StarTrek.com site of, they take pictures of telesnaps going back to Doctor Who of the while they're filming.
I don't know that they're done with Tilly as first officer, though, because with Saru off the ship, this may be the Michael and Tilly show when we come back.
It could be. It could be Saru comes back as first officer, but that would be really weird. That would
be
captain
even weirder.
Yeah. Or it's that new character. Could be a new character that they'll bring in. It would be interesting if they brought that officer from the 32nd century that they had earlier, who had come aboard as a liaison. Yeah, maybe something like that. It could be interesting to have a little mix there. But yeah, they might just have Tilly again. Stamets is still holding his grudge against Burnham. That I noticed. When she was seeing Stamets and Culber reunited, he was not happy with her. That was another bit. And then
even when they were doing this, they're standing there on the bridge. He wasn't quite as happy as everybody else was. Right.
That's Stamets. He's not happy with anything ever. And then at the end, Burnham, she's got the catchphrase that Saru was always searching for. Hers is "Let's fly." Let's fly with me.
I'm glad they didn't have that conversation again. It was funny on lower decks. It was cute with Saru. Yeah. It would have gotten old with Burnham.
Yeah, no, they did. And then we end with an on-screen quote from Gene Roddenberry about being aliens on a strange planet.
This is the 800th episode.
800, yeah.
801st, but or something like that. But yes, there was and it's a quote about if during our whole lifetime we could reach out and really communicate with just two people, we are indeed fortunate. And that wasn't interesting. Like, so in other words, he's saying that real communication is something harder than just talking.
Yeah. Oh, and they also had the TOS closing theme,
the Alexander Courage theme. Yeah, that was nice. I like that. that's how this episode ends. Do you have any notes about this episode? Because I want to briefly talk about the future of Discovery, but any closing notes on this?
It really wasn't a bad episode. You know, we grumble about it, and there were things, obviously, things. Big holes you could fly a turbo lift through, but
self-replicating holes you could fly a turbo lift through.
That's right.
Yeah. But it was not a bad ending for, frankly, a mediocre season. I honestly, looking at the season as a whole, I would put this between 1 and 2. As far as it was better than much of season 1, nowhere near as good as season 2. It was okay, I guess.
I would say the last 4 episodes of this series had a big jump in storytelling because they included much more just straight ahead plot and much less wallowing.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah, if they take a lesson out of this, and I don't know what they don't have really ratings because it's a streaming service. I don't know what the viewership has been like for them. I'm guessing based on anecdotal evidence that it was lower than before, but hopefully they take some lessons out of this and kind of go back to some of what made season 2 the best season so far. So let's talk about the future then. 4th season is currently, as we record, in production. They are actually filming episodes. The 5th season was supposed to be filmed back to back with the 4th season, which is interesting. But that, due to COVID, has been, we don't know when they'll film the 5th season because the 4th season filming has now been extended. They will be set in the 32nd century. According to Alex Kurtzman, I think it was, they're not going back. This is a permanent change.
Well, the crew may eventually go back, but Discovery will be left in the future because Calypso.
Right, but I think he said like they will not be showing them in the past. This Star Trek Discovery is now set in the future, so that is interesting.
And it's possible the crew doesn't ever go back, and that'd be fine. You know, I mean, that would fit the whole idea. So
filming for the season is scheduled to end in June. So take what you will. When the next time we'll get to see when we'll see season 4, probably not till 2022. Probably not the rest of this year.
I would guess about this time next year, if not even longer, depending. Because, of course, a lot of the post-production stuff can be done remotely. There's a lot of that stuff. Once they have the actual film in the can, so to speak, or on hard drive, a lot of that stuff can be done from home remotely. Computers. So,
yep. Everybody's coming back. All the entire cast, including David Cronenberg as Kovich, which is interesting.
Yes.
So apparently he still plays
eyeglasses.
Yeah. Eyeglasses. Yep. Janet Reno will only be in the second half of the 4th season.
Maybe.
So
last I saw, she was still kind of up in the air just because of travel stuff and her own career.
Yeah. She didn't get much
outside
screen time in the last several episodes anyway. So. And they're going to be using the same technology that was developed for The Mandalorian, the volume or space, so they don't have to do as much location shooting like they did this year, which also should make post-production faster since they don't have to create as many post-production CGI. They can just put it right up on the screen as they're filming. That's one of the things that makes it faster.
Yeah. So this technology is basically next-gen rear screen projection.
Yes.
Or more green screen, or
no, it's not green screen. It's projected on a wall, and the lighting is there. Like if you watch The Mandalorian, almost everything you see there is in this space, including the outdoor places, which is kind of fantastic. It's really a phenomenal technology.
It's rear projection. It just doesn't look fakey anymore.
Yes. Yeah. It's really cool. If you ever get a chance to watch the making of The Mandalorian stuff on Disney Plus, you'll get an idea of how it works. It's pretty amazing.
I haven't done that yet. I'll go do that.
Yeah. And so that's about what we know of upcoming. Oh, and one thing about Book that we didn't talk about is he, at the very end, tells Burnham that he's going to after all this is over, I'll tell you all about my mentor, the real Cleveland Booker, and why I took his name. And that was that. So we have to look forward to that, I guess.
And of course, that's something they hinted at, that he was going to mention where the name came from, like episode 3.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard anything since. So.
Still to come. I guess that about does it. Any final thoughts on the third season? I mean, we kind of had a little bit of our third season wrap up, but any final thoughts on what we've done.
One thing I will say is it's clear that Gray will be coming back, because they did have that scene where they all saw him and everybody was happy.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to boldly going somewhere else for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go where we haven't gone before. All right, let's wrap it up. Yeah.
I was going to say, actually, maybe we should mention that we do know Lower Decks are coming out later this season, or later this year.
Yes, Lower Decks.
The second season, Lower Decks.
Yep.
That's in post-production.
Right.
And we do know that Strange New Worlds is in pre-production right now. But again, that's all stuff that can be done remotely. So we do have other stuff coming, and Picard 2 is coming some point, maybe, possibly.
But all this stuff is not filmed yet, so it's all probably going to be after the next season of Discovery.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, which means we have a long wait till
Except
we get into
Lower Decks.
Except
that
for Lower
very
Decks.
likely will be. That'll probably be this summer, this fall.
And we've talked about it. We will be doing Lower Decks episode by episode, or some form of that, maybe 2 episodes at a time, or something along those lines. We'll come up with something rather than talk all about it at once. It's worth talking about individual episodes.
Told you.
Jimmy's right again. Anyway, let's wrap it up. We want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including Tristram C, Nate and Jessica V, Daniel B, Aaron W, and Rocco F. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. Now is a great time to become a StarQuest patron, thanks to a generous gift from a StarQuest supporter. When you start a new Patreon monthly pledge at sqpn.com/give, the first 3 months will be matched by an equal amount from our donor. So if you become a patron at $10 a month, after 3 months, our donor will give $30 to StarQuest to support all our shows, including this one, making your gift go even further. So if you've been thinking of becoming a StarQuest patron, now's the time. Visit sqpn.com/give today. So that's it from us. What did you think of this last episode of Star Trek Discovery's Season 3, or the whole season as a whole? Let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, or our Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to trek@sqpn.com. We'll be back next time, and we'll be discussing the Star Trek Voyager episode, Heroes and Demons, the Beowulf episode, if you remember. Until then, Father Cory Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, Dom.
Jimmy Aiken, thank you as well.
Thank you. Live long and prosper, and warp me.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, whatever happens, we are together.